Introduction, Pro Tour top 8er, Grand Prix winner, Grand Prix top 8er, Star City top 8er. He has just about everything.
Yep, and he's going to be able to try to take his frustration of losing to Junk Aristocrats in the quarterfinals last week and put it to good use to try to get into the top 8 this week.
That's right, and wow, Eric's sleeves, I love them.
The tartan sleeves?
That is some beautiful plaid.
That's right.
So here we go. It looks like Eric's good with his hand, and Matt leads off with Sacred Foundry.
Yep, this is going to be a blue-white-red flash against Junk Aristocrats matchup. Eric is going to lead off with Young Wolf. This is a fairly complicated matchup from both sides.
It is. There's a lot of dancing back and forth.
Yep. Junk Aristocrats, we've been talking about all weekend, is probably the most complicated deck to play and play against, just from the sheer amount of choices you have on every turn. Cartel Aristocrat secretly has 5 abilities because you can choose any one of the 5 colors. Scavenging on to any creature with any creature in your graveyard. Very difficult to try to figure out exactly what to try to do.
Garruk Relentless has like 6 abilities.
Absolutely, yeah.
10 abilities, something like that. Wow, double Young Wolf. And they're looking pretty embarrassing against this Augur of Bolas. I was really surprised when I saw that Eric cut a Garruk Relentless for a Young Wolf. That really surprised me.
Trying to go a lot more aggressive with his Junk Aristocrats deck. He only is running the 2 Garruk Relentless, one of the best cards against Matt Costa's deck, actually. Either for the Bitter Blossom perspective of just putting a thing into play every turn, or from being able to fight something like Augur of Bolas.
Right, and then go search up his best creature, in this case Obzedat. In this matchup, Obzedat.
Yep, and Eric resolves Verolz, the Scar Striped. Scars and Stripes forever, there he is on the left. Don't feed the trolls unless you're playing that deck.
And in that case, you probably want to feed that troll as much as possible.
Yep.
Awesome sacrifice outlet. And it was really this guy that let the Aristocrat deck move away from the red and back to the green.
Yeah, having the 2 mana sacrifice outlet in Cartel Aristocrat available to both decks, obviously huge, but having a 3 mana sacrifice outlet in the Junk version as opposed to the 4 mana Falkenrath Aristocrat in the red, white, black version led to this Act 3 version rather than the Act 2 with Falkenrath Aristocrat. Much better taking much better advantage of Skursdag High Priest, especially.
Right. Cards like Skursdag High Priest. This also lets the deck play Voice of Resurgence and cards like Garruk Relentless, just really good green cards that it wouldn't otherwise be able to play. And this deck is a monster.
Yeah, you look at Matt Costa's hand, he has a copy of War Leader's Helix in there, and that card is just not very good against Eric's board.
No, he has to main phase it on a Verolz or it doesn't do anything, and that is ugly to spend 4 mana to kill a Young Wolf.
Yep. Pretty gross.
Yeah. Voice especially really good against Matt Costa. What he would want here is something like a Restoration Angel, just to hold the ground while he can build up to a big Sphinx's Revelation.
I actually talked with Matt in between the first and second rounds about how a lot of people, there's the 3rd Young Wolf accidentally shown out of Eric's hand, about how a lot of people thought that the Death Knell of Blue White Red Flash, it was already a problem, but the Death Knell is this second copy, obviously, of Voice of Resurgence. Very difficult for anything that's trying to play during an opponent's end of turn step to play around efficiently.
You know, it's pretty interesting. Eric doesn't seem like he's too worried about Supreme Verdict, and he shouldn't be, because he probably knows Matt Costa only has one. He only had one in his Miami deck.
Yeah, the problem with being known for a deck is that your opponents know your exact list.
Right.
And this is the exact 75 that he top-8'd the Grand Prix with last weekend. He's very used to this list. He's very good with this list. But Eric, if he pays attention to the results, can pretty much just know what's in Matt's deck.
Right. And you know, especially at 7-1, this deep into a tournament, you have to figure he's at least checked it out. He knows Matt Costa's in the tournament. If he didn't know before, he probably pulled it up on a smartphone, checked it out.
Knew that it was a possible matchup.
Right.
So Snapcaster Mage is going to come down main phase. This is going to draw a card.
Wow.
I thought that was going to Pillar of Flame something.
Yeah, me too. I don't know how Matt expects to deal with these 2 voices. Maybe just through blocking them down, through trying to draw into his 1 Supreme Verdict.
He's just trying to draw more cards, get as many lands into play. He knows that he needs to get as many lands into play as possible to have a shot in this matchup.
Right.
So maybe that's the plan.
Yeah, and Eric, he can attack, but it's really, he doesn't have that many good attacks here. He would hate to trade away his Voice of Resurgence for just a Snapcaster Mage.
So Young Wolf is going to become a 2/2 during Matt's end of turn step. Leveling up slightly there.
Wow, another Voice.
Jeez. Best Doom Traveler ever. Showing its worth, especially against blue-white-red Flash.
And
Huge problem.
Matt Costa will never play a spell on his opponent's turn. So Young Wolf gets sacrificed to Varolz, and this looks like a scavenge onto Varolz. There that is.
Yep, 3/3 Varolz and a pair of 2/2 Voice of Resurgence enter the red zone.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that Young Wolf gets exiled from his graveyard. I'm sure they're working on it.
So we're going to block one Voice of Resurgence with Snapcaster Mage. Snapcaster Mage and Voice will both hit the graveyard, and Elemental Token is going to come into play. It's going to currently be a 4/4. The other one is going to bounce off of an Augur of Bolas, Lumen Grid Warden holding down the fort, and Matt's going to fall to 17 thanks to the Scar Striped.
Yeah, and Matt is pretty happy with that trade. Trading the Snapcaster for the Voice is just fine. He only has 2 to deal with now. While it's not great, he's one step closer to being out of the woods.
So we have all of this awfulness that we have to face down, a bunch of very difficult to kill creatures. Even if you cast Supreme Verdict, you're not out of the woods by any stretch. You've still got Varolz in play, you've still got 2 elemental tokens. What is your game plan if you're Matt Costa? Supreme Verdict isn't even an out here.
No, not really. The Varolz would become huge. But if I'm Matt Costa, I guess I'm just trying to Sphinx's Revelation for 3, maybe find the Supreme Verdict. He doesn't have any options. I guess he could turn and burn the Varolz.
I think that turn and burn is his best option right now. Azorius Charm also very good against Junk Aristocrats, although he cycled one of those earlier. Not really great when you have Voice of Resurgences in play,
Yep.
obviously, but these counter spells aren't particularly good. I think that his main plan this game is to try to find Restoration Angels. I think is the best he can do.
I think so too, and he did just find one, so that's a start. If he can keep his Augur of Bolas alive this turn, he'll get a little value out of it, dig closer to Supreme Verdict. And one nice thing about the deck too is that, yeah, he only has 1 Supreme Verdict, but all these Augur of Bolosses keep putting cards in the bottom, There are no shuffle effects.
Yeah.
It's not going to rearrange the deck. He'll find it eventually if he has enough time.
So this is going to scavenge onto a Voice of Resurgence. And then Doom Traveler is going to enter play, immediately leave play, and then get scavenged onto the other Voice of Resurgence.
Leaving Matt Costa with no good blocks here. He cannot keep his Augur of Bolas alive if he wants to block this turn.
Yep. Eric's going to swing in with a 3/3, a 4/4, a 4/4, and a 3/3.
Yep, looking like 14 damage coming at Matt.
Not particularly great. I believe Matt's at... Oh no, he gained 3 more life from the Sphinx's Revelation. That's right. So Matt is back up to 20 after gaining 3 from Sphinx's Revelation, after taking 3 from the Varolz, but he's facing down 14 power worth of attackers here.
Yeah, and it looks like he's just going to throw it in the way of the Elemental Token.
Yeah, he doesn't have much other choice, so he's going to prevent 4 of that, taking 10, falling to 10, and he's in a world of hurt.
Yeah, it's a huge chunk. He has to find a Supreme Verdict this turn, I think.
Yep, and even Supreme Verdict isn't going to really do it. Like, Supreme Verdict, in response, the Elemental is going to regenerate the Varolz. 2 more Elementals are going to come into play.
Right.
And then we're going to be able to scavenge both of those Varolz.
Yeah,
both of those Voices with the Varolz.
It's really... Alright, so we have a Helix.
So the Helix is going to target the Varolz. That's actually going to be able to deal the damage. It won't be able to kill the Varolz, but Matt will at least be able to gain 4 life, and it'll take something off of the board.
Right, stay alive for 1 turn. He can... When he has Syncopate mana up, that doesn't matter too much.
No, Matt has a lot of lands in his hand. He was never able to find a space to be able to cast that Restoration Angel. Eric's deciding which of his creatures he wants his Varolz to eat assuming he doesn't want to keep these voices in play. I think that he probably wants to eat one of the voices.
Yeah, I think so. You could eat an elemental token if you're really worried about Supreme Verdict, but I think the voice is better because you get that scavenge, that key scavenge.
Yeah, I think that that he does end up eating one of the Voice of Resurgences, gets another elemental token. It will be a 4/4, but Matt will be able to gain the 4 life at the very least.
The elemental token down to 3/3. A little more manageable now.
Well, he still has a trigger on the stack for one of the other elemental tokens, right? Yeah. I think that they were looking for another token.
I see.
And we didn't have another one, so we're going to be able to get another elemental token. There it is.
I thought he had missed that trigger for a second there, but
yeah,
pretty hard to miss the voice. That's a trigger you shouldn't miss. That's why it's in your deck.
So we have, looks like, another Verol's in hand and another land. In addition to, couldn't see what the last card was, might be a tragic slip. Nope, it was another Young Wolf. So Young Wolf is going to be able to scavenge if he really wants it to, basically giving Verol's an additional counter. I don't think that he wants it to, though. He just wants to grow up those elemental tokens. And Matt Costa is going to fall to Eric Laframboise' aggressive start.
Yeah, really aggressive. He drew all 3 Young Wolves. He had 3 out of his 4 Voice of Resurgence. Just a great draw against Matt Costa. Matt was looking for Eric to be a little slower, maybe Skursdag High Priest, Blood Artist, Doom Travelers. Those would have all been fine, but the voices are just killer for Matt Costa.
Yeah, absolutely. He was unable to put up any sort of defense. He couldn't. The Augur Bolas helped for a minute. The Pillar of Flame took out something,
right,
but it wasn't able to do enough. The Verol's got out of control way too fast, and Eric Laframboise is going to take game 1. So we're going to move to sideboarding. I think that we're all used to Matt Costa's sideboard here. There's some very good cards in his sideboard, fortunately for him. Chief among them, I think, is Renounce the Guilds. One of the best ways to be able to deal with a flipped Garrick. One of the best ways to deal with Cartel Aristocrat, Verol's elemental token.
Yeah.
Not ideal when your opponent has 3 Doomed or 3 Voice of Resurgence, but it's a very good card. Oh, by the way, gets rid of Obsidian too.
Just about everything. Is it Staticaster is also really, really good in this matchup. Matt has 2 available to him. So if he draws one of those early, that'll take care of any Lingering Souls, Blood Artist, Doom Travelers, half of the Young Wolf, a ton of stuff. In addition, he has more of the usual suspects. Thundermaw Hellkite, which gets brought in just about every match.
Yeah.
The Supreme Verdict, maybe. Pillar of Flame, he has 1 more of those to bring in. But really, he's just overloading on the removal spells, trying to go a little more aggressive with Thundermaw Hellkite.
Yeah, Is It Staticaster and Thundermaw Hellkite are very good at keeping down Lingering Souls tokens, of which the Junk Aristocrats deck is a big proponent of the Lingering Souls. Pretty much the deck that uses Lingering Souls the best.
Oh yeah. Now, it's almost blasphemous, but do you think Eric might trim on the Souls a little bit because of the existence of Staticaster, Thundermaw Hellkite?
I think that's a pretty good assumption. He doesn't need those. He's got a much more, as we were mentioning, he's got a much more aggressive looking list to be able to race people, and it only gets more aggressive after sideboard with a pair of Sin Collectors, extremely good against Matt Costa's deck. He could even race with something like Deathrite Shaman. I wouldn't be terribly surprised to see him bring in to be able to eat all of the instants and sorceries out of Matt Costa's deck and do the Grim Lavamancer impression.
It's pretty good. He can't bring in too many because of Matt's Supreme Verdicts, but if he thinks Matt will only have 1 or 2 after board, they could be pretty good.
I also expect to see the extra Obsidian Ghost Council. Duress will certainly be coming in. I wouldn't expect to see Unflinching Courage. Not at its best in this matchup. Very good at racing, but I don't think that this is a racing matchup.
No, the life gain is just completely irrelevant against Matt Costa. He wants to overwhelm him with creatures, voices, Verol's, scavenge, all of that good stuff. My worry is that Eric doesn't have enough cards to take out of his deck. He wants to bring in at least 8 cards. What do you think he'll be cutting?
Yeah, we're definitely. I mean, the Young Wolves certainly proved their worth there, but mostly just as being fodder.
Right.
You could have sacrificed anything, and it would have been pretty much just as well. So I think that the Young Wolves are a little underwhelming, especially on the draw. A little embarrassing when facing down an Augur of Bolas. I think that the Lingering Souls are pretty cuttable, actually. I am not a big proponent of ever cutting Lingering Souls in this deck. It's 4 creatures for 1 card, and you can use those creatures so efficiently in this deck.
Yeah, but in this matchup, though, I would cut at most 2. I would probably cut 2 of those, 2 Tragic Slips. I would leave myself with a little bit of an out to a mid-combat Restoration Angel in the form of Tragic Slip, but I would cut like Young Wolf, Tragic Slip, Lingering Souls, 2/2, all 3 Young Wolf, and then the last card,
maybe a Blood Artist or Scursdag's probably better, yeah, because Matt has so many ways to be able to deal with a Scursdag High Priest on turn 1 or turn 2 with Pillar of Flame, Turn and Burn. He can even War Leader's Helix if it comes down to turn 2 late. So, yeah, I think that one of the Scursdags can probably hit the bricks, although the Scursdag High Priest God Draw is just so powerful and pretty much impossible for the Flash deck to beat.
Right.
Some decks have a possibility of coming back from it. Jund is one of the decks that can come back from from one or two turns of an active demon coming into play every once in a while. But Blue-White Red Flash certainly has a much worse time with it.
Yeah, Matt's going to lean pretty hard on his pair of Supreme Verdicts if Eric gets the draw that he did in Game 1, featuring multiple voices. Maybe a multiple Scursdag High Priest draw. He'll need the Supreme Verdict. Don't expect to see Matt cast the Verdict until he absolutely has to, because it's so valuable, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Supreme Verdict is very subpar in this matchup. It's a necessary evil, but with things like Verals and all of the Leaves play triggers and Blood Artists, it's going to be a rough go for the Supreme Verdict deck. He's got many other cards that he wants to take out, though. Counterflux is certainly coming out pretty much immediately. I wouldn't want that in my deck for another second. Same with the Rewind. Syncopates maybe, because they're a 2-mana counterspell.
I would keep the Syncopates in because of things like Scavenge, things like the Lingering Souls. It's pretty good against that.
Right. Matt does have a Moorland Haunt to be able to try and keep up with the spirits in the sky, but as we said, I think that many of those are coming out.
Yeah, I have to imagine if Eric has playtested this matchup, he'll realize how much of a beating Thundermaw Hellkite is and cut at least 1 Lingering Souls.
Looks like Matt has 5 lands and Supreme Verdict.
I believe he's on 6 cards right now, and he'll keep.
He's going to keep the 6.
And if you're just joining us right now, I'm Zach Hall, joined in the booth by Ruben Bresler, and we're coming to you live from the Star City Open here in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Duress is going to see the 5 lands.
Wow. And
well, that's pretty much ideal for Matt Costa, actually, is for his opponent to lead with the Duress.
That's perfect. You know, it's pretty unusual. Usually you see the Duress come down turn 1 or turn 2, turn 3. That's usually the best turn, but it looks like Eric has a lot of gas, so he won't be able to sequence that.
Eric wanted to make sure that the coast was clear for Voice of Resurgence. I actually probably would have played the Scursdag High Priest on 2, seeing that the coast was clear, just in case that you could get the follow-up God draw the next turn, but I'm never going to complain when I can get a Voice of Resurgence in play and untap with it.
Ooh, Sin Collector.
Is going to once more.
Wow.
Oh, it's going to take the 1 of that Matt drew here.
Pretty lucky for Eric there that Matt drew an instant that he couldn't cast there.
Yeah.
But he also would have been fine with just a 2-1 for 3 as well.
So Renounce the Guilds off the top for Matt Costa. It's going to be a long way back.
Yeah, Matt Costa, it'll probably start with something like a Supreme Verdict, depending on how Eric develops his board. Maybe a Thundermaw Hellkite off the top could race reasonably. But whatever it is, it's going to have to happen pretty soon, starting with this draw phase.
Eric is going to drop yet another Voice. That's the 5th of the match, and a Blood Artist. Blood Artist is going to prevent Matt from Supreme Verdicting effectively, which he couldn't really do anyway because of the 2 Voice of Resurgence.
And I believe Matt just drew Sphinx's Revelation, so he could fire that off for 2 here if he wanted to.
Yeah, a little mini Sphinx to be able to try and get himself back into this game. I think that facing down 6 power, he's probably going to wait another turn. Nope, never mind.
Draw 2, gain 2.
Get those 2 right now.
A nice little divination impersonation right there. Moorland Haunt. Oh, I think that was is it Staticaster drawn by Matt? That's going to be
Staticaster will be a very good one.
Now, if Matt can draw another 2 or 3 mana spell to go with the Staticaster, that'll be a long way towards stabilization.
Yeah, he does. He does have Renounce the Guilds.
Okay, so he has 2 plays on the next turn anyway.
Matt is still drawing a lot of lands, though.
He is.
So Staticaster's going to come on down. That's going to be able to stand in front of one of the 2/2s.
Young Wolf drawn by Eric. He doesn't really care what he draws right now. He has just about everything he needs on the board here.
Yeah, he needs a sack outlet. It's the last piece he needs to be able to start making that Demon Factory.
Young Wolf, and now he's looking at which attacks he can make here.
Yeah, I think that he's going to leave back at least one of his attackers, as you see there, just in case Matt decides to try to ping the Sin Collector at end of turn. So
right.
He can activate the Skurzdag High Priest.
Yeah, this way Matt is not going to be able to do that. If Eric...
That's a very good card. That's a Pillar of Flame.
Oh boy.
So that's going to take down that Skurzdag High Priest, almost certainly.
I don't see what other choice he has here. Can't take out the Blood Artist, can't take out the Young Wolf, nor the Voice as much as he'd like to. The Priest, though, with Matt at 8 life, he cannot give Eric even 1 demon. These players not only playing for a spot in the top 8, they're also playing for a potential invitation to the Star City Games Invitational in Somerset.
Absolutely, and that's in just a few weeks, in 2 or 3,
wow.
On July 26th and 28th. And so there's the Pillar of Flame.
That's targeting Blood Artist.
Getting rid of the Blood Artist. Interesting.
I guess Matt figures his only way out of this game is Supreme Verdict. Has to get rid of Blood Artist or it'll just kill him. And will he cast a Renounce the Guilds right here?
Probably, no. I guess not.
He might want to save that to deal with a follow-up elemental, like a post-Supreme Verdict elemental.
Well, Matt's at 8. Eric has 8 power in play. And so Matt is going to have to cast this Renounce the Guilds on Eric's turn in order to survive. Assuming that Staticaster doesn't block, which he didn't block with it last turn. Oh no, he did block with it last turn. I apologize. So, in any case, Matt's going to fall to probably 2.
Yeah, not a safe life total against a Blood Artist deck.
Yeah.
Against a deck with these Voices of Resurgence that just, even if Matt draws the Supreme Verdict, best case it's on top, he's still pretty much dead.
Yep, in comes the team, including the pair of 1-power attackers. Staticaster is going to stand in front of a Voice, and then is going to ping the Sin Collector before damage is dealt.
Yep, Matt's going to try to buy another turn here. He'll take 4, fall to 4.
I think that he senses that Supreme Verdict is only out. There's the Azorius Charm.
Okay.
That gives him a redraw at least.
Yeah, I think he'll use this to cycle right now. He can't cast it on his opponent's turn. Unless, of course, he thinks that Supreme Verdict is his only out. Yeah, this seems like a better use of it.
And it's just another land.
Now Costa floods out in this game. Eric on the verge of locking up a spot in the top 8. He's going to have to fade one more draw from Matt Costa, though.
Yep, Matt's probably going to fall to 3 here after blocking one of the Voices and pinging the Young Wolf. Oh, Eric's not going to swing in with the Skurzdag High Priest this time.
Surprising.
That doesn't really change the math any for Matt. I think he still pings the Young Wolf.
Yeah,
because
the verdict
Supreme Verdict is still deals with the demon. Doesn't change the clock any.
Right, and if he can Supreme Verdict, that means that the Young Wolf won't come back as a 2/2 as well. Although, so he doesn't do it. Looks like
Matt is just going to fall to 1.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
And
anyway.
It's just so many lands. Unfortunate for Matt Costa.
He extends the hand. He'll have to settle for 7-2 after 9 rounds. Eric Laframboise is most likely going to be in the top 8. Has almost definitely locked up a spot.
Yeah, he's going to